Yeah, 150,000 people woke up today that won't wake up tomorrow every day. So the way to stay intentional is to realize that life is fragile. But if you think you got all the time in the world, what we tend to do is we tend to procrastinate doing the things that we say really matter.
Welcome to the Going North podcast, where you will be informed, encouraged, and empowered to embrace your dreams and advance in life through authorship. I'm your host, best-selling author of the book Stay the Course, and certified leadership trainer, DomBrightmon. Be sure to check out the goods and services from every guest, as well as the host himself, yours truly. Now let the fun begin. Today's episode is sponsored by book number 2 from DomBrightmon, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. It is the field guide to help unleash the elite performer that is inside of you. Cop it today on Amazon.com or heading over to DomBrightmon.com and snag it in book, ebook, and audio book, so that way you can take it on the go and get yourself on the go to your northbound success. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, is the Going North podcast. We got another super special, awesome human for you today, courtesy of the mighty PM and the PM, thepodmatch.com, where podcast guests get to connect with podcast hosts. We got another super special, awesome human for you today, because today's guest in particular is a TEDx speaker, y'all. That's right, indeed. So red circles everywhere, on top of an education and parenting activist and a self-described humanity propulsion engineer. So let's give it up for the NTG himself, Nate the Great himself, Nathaniel A. Turner. How you doing today, Nathaniel?
I'm good, and you, sir? Thank you for having me.
Doing great with all the R's. It's great.
Like Tony the Tiger, great, huh? All right.
That's right, the triple T, that Tony the Tiger.
Right.
That's right, dude. That's right, dude. So, my goodness, man, welcome. First time on the podcast, man. Just trying to get the backstory of how folks cultivated their success, man. So, mind filling in folks on who is the one and only Nate Turner.
Nate Turner is a guy from Gary, Indiana, originally. The proud son, I should say, of Gladys and Tommy Turner, the brother of Kimberly, the husband of Latanya, the father of Naeem. And friends and family members all call me Nate. That's it.
Really? That's all?
I mean, there's. Hey, I'm a work in progress, as we all are. So I tend to think whatever I did yesterday has no bearing on who I am today. So you'll decide today who I am.
A solid dude who's doing some good work in the world indeed, man. So, my goodness, what led you to get your JD, man? Because if I'm not mistaken, he actually wasn't even going into the law field at first, or at least looking to study law at first.
One of my closest friends encouraged me in high school. He said he wanted to be a doctor and I needed to be a lawyer. So we sort of made it a pact. He would go to medical school, I would go to law school. And so I was responsible for upholding my end. But the other thing that encouraged me to do it, 2 other things. One, I met someone during my childhood who was actually a judge, and he helped me sort of see a pathway for me to live differently than I currently was living. And the other thing is that I at some point wanted to be the world's preeminent human rights leader. And so to do that, I believed I needed to go to law school. I have an accounting degree, so I had an accounting background, a finance background. And I was also working on my master's in history and theology. So I figured I had the theological perspective taken care of. So I just needed to finish law school. And then I could do something that what I believe no other Black leader had done, which was to cover the finance piece, the theological piece, as well as the legal piece.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Amen to that, man. And my goodness. And I guess, yeah, the Bible wasn't kidding about you being a Renaissance man, indeed, with all those wonderful interests and all those things that you've accomplished and plan on accomplishing in the future, man. So, my goodness, I'm sure with all of that head knowledge and then the action to back it up, like you've created and published multiple books, man. So, what's probably the hardest thing about really focusing on, I guess, one project at a time? Because it seems like you got a lot of irons in the fire.
The most difficult thing is getting people to get out the way. So yeah, when you're writing and you are attempting to find your creative energy, you need to be, at least I do, I need to be in a space where I'm uninterrupted. So people are not asking you for stuff. There are no additional demands on your time. There's also the point when you get things completed and you're trying to use what you've created to help other people. You also need people to get out the way, namely the gatekeepers and harbor masters that keep you from helping the people who most need your assistance. So that's the greatest challenge I find are people.
Oh yeah. Yes, indeed. I just say that kind of reminds me of what a pastor said one time when another pastor was being ordained. It's like, yep, the best part of service is the people. The worst part of service is the people.
Exactly. Yeah, I tell everyone I don't like people. I love them. I don't like them. So
Huge
there's a
difference.
very important distinction. Yeah, and it's true. To love someone is a commandment, right? To love your neighbor as yourself. But there is no commandment to like anybody. And right, liking someone is very different. My mom loves me, but I'm sure there are plenty of days when she did not like me. And I understand that. I understand that more now than ever. Loving people and liking them, a whole different story.
But I know she's definitely proud of you, though.
Yeah, yeah. Grateful, yes. She's grateful. He listens. She's like, he listens some days. That's probably what she thinks. Oh my God, he listens sometimes.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Well, speaking of grateful parents, I hear you're also a grateful parent yourself because you actually raised a son who actually got a nice head start, I hear.
I do. I have a 27-year-old son. He's a fifth year PhD candidate in the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Carnegie Mellon. So yeah, the fact that he's around is the reason why I'm talking to you today. Because if it wasn't for him, whatever a little bit of notoriety I may have, I would be completely in obscurity absent my son.
Ah, yeah, that's right, indeed. If I'm not mistaken, I think one of your books is actually based off of some letters you wrote to him, right?
Yeah, I wrote my son from the moment that I learned I was going to be a parent. I didn't know I was having a boy, we were having a boy or girl, but I just wrote notes about what I would want to happen for this child. And once my son was born, I continued to write notes about what it was I wanted to happen in his life, and we were backward designing this process for him. But it is when he was two, and he walked in the mailbox with me one afternoon and insisted that he get mail. I was getting mail, so he wanted mail. I told him there were bills. He didn't care that I had bills. He just wanted mail. So I started writing them, and so at some point I written him enough letters that when he was 16, he decided he was done with high school. He felt like he completed everything he needed to do. He started high school as a seventh grader. He had earned 33 college credits. He had finished all of his academic requirements for high school and didn't feel the need of going back for a senior year. Wanted to lead a country and chase his dream of playing professional soccer. Packed his bags and moved to Brazil. And while he was in Brazil, I gave him a copy of some of the letters. I put them in a binder. And some of those letters then became the first book, which was Raising Superman.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's right, indeed. A father's love, compassion, baby. That's right, indeed. And encouragement, too.
Yes, yeah, all of that. All of that. Wrote him thinking that I might not live to be as old as I am today, might not get a chance to see him grow and develop into the man he's grown up to be, and wanted to make sure that should something happen to me or if I mess up our relationship like my father did with ours, that he'd have a record of how much I loved.
Mm. That's what I'm talking about. Indeed, that's definitely powerful. Indeed. So my goodness, with that, really being able to send all those letters so your son can get mail, the
Yep.
good mail and not the bills. Like after sharing this story, I'm sure multiple times, have any fathers reached out to you about that idea and them maybe adopting the same idea for their kids?
Yeah, I've talked to a number of people, I've been a number of places and talked to folks about the value of writing letters, that most of us won't have a substantive legacy to leave, but the thing we can all leave are written words. We can all share some suggestions, some recommendations, some direction for our children and our children's children. Um, that may be the only thing we can do, but sometimes there's great things found in those words. So I've encouraged lots of folks to do that.
Amen to that. Amen to that indeed. So my goodness, so any encouragement for the fellow fathers out there who are probably working twice as hard nowadays more than ever?
Really, so this may seem harsh, but I would say that anybody who thinks that the work that you're doing trumps your responsibility as a father is just mistaken. I would say gravely mistaken. And here's what I mean by that. Anyone who makes the choice to become a parent does so with a great amount of hubris. Everyone says when you have a child, I've not yet met a parent who didn't tell me, there's no manual, there's no book. To which I would say, Dom, what in the world would you ever attempt to do that has the importance of raising a child without reading a manual, without first having a book? No, nothing. You can't drive a car. You can't practice medicine. You can't practice law, right? You can't do anything. Yet people decide to become parents without ever doing any kind of study. So I would say to any parent who is complaining about the challenges, too bad, because because you had the opportunity to do some research to figure out what it meant to be a parent before you got involved. The last thing any of us should do is to decide to try to figure it out before we get started. Like zip your pants up first.
Some solid advice too is definitely true. It's like you definitely got to make sure that you plan as much as you can and start before you're ready because the thing is, and you're right about parenthood, it's like, yeah, you can read all the books you want and me not prepared for everything, but it's better be prepared and actually do some study beforehand. So,
Right.
like, that's definitely a cold, hard truth that folks need to understand because of everything else. Like, hey, there's a manual for everything else. There's books, there's courses, things like that. So, definitely plan yourself ahead of time indeed. So, my goodness, so since you got a huge body of work, you're doing all these wonderful presentations, traveling the country, if not the whole entire globe, helping out humans to be the best humans ever. What are your plans for the future, my man?
Working on a book that speaks to that. It's called The Who Mindset. So the idea behind the book is to get folks to recognize that the most important word in the human language, perhaps the most important word certainly in one's lifespan, will be who. I mean, there's a lot of talk historically, well, let's just say historically, maybe the last 15 years or so, people have been talking about why a whole lot. Everybody needs to know their why. And I've been saying that's the wrong word. There are five interrogatory words. There's who, what, where, when, why, and then there's how. But the most important of those words is who. And I say that because who will appear on your obituary, who will be spoken during your eulogy, and who will be the final words that appear on your tomb or your urn. And so the idea behind the book is to get us to start thinking about who we want to be when our time is over. Such if my last conversation I have with anyone is with you, Dom, you will be able to tell as much of who I was as anyone else. And so it's my responsibility during my time with you, for me, to make sure that who I want to be when my life is over manifests itself in my interactions with you. And that's essentially what we're writing in that next book.
Oh, shoot, that's what I'm talking about. Days, right? Days, right? Indeed. Yes, indeed. Because, hey, it's good to know why, but you also got to know who, because who is going to help you get to your next who, and then you'll figure out how thanks to the next who.
Yeah, I mean, but who is really about, if you were to imagine writing your your own obituary, or if you imagine writing the last entry in your Wikipedia page, if you could live your life any way you wanted to, what would that say? And once you determine that, then the objective in life is to work towards that goal. It's like a GPS. But again, so infrequently do we think about the end until we come to the end. Oh my God, I have cancer, it's stage 4. There was all these things I wish I had done. I wish I lived differently. Well, what if we all just lived as if tomorrow was not promised for real? And if today was going to be your last day, you start thinking about, well, what you want your legacy to be, and start living up to that in the moment that you have now, which is the present.
Yeah, my man's bringing the heat indeed, bringing the heat indeed. So, right, definitely got to think about the end too. It's like, hey, a lot of folks are kind of scared about it, if not really scared about it. And it's like, oh, let me not think about that. Let me live for today. And it's like, hey, actually living for future and your legacy, like that's definitely something that a lot of folks should definitely consider.
Yeah, 150,000 people woke up today that won't wake up tomorrow every day. So the way to stay intentional is to realize that life is fragile. But if you think you got all the time in the world, what we tend to do is we tend to procrastinate doing the things that we say really matter. So just trying to get people to approach life with a little more urgency and a little more immediacy than we currently do.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Solid stuff indeed. That's solid gold flow indeed. So my goodness, so since you've been on a boatload of podcast interviews on the guest side of the game, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
Don't we just talked about who? Usually people miss that one. So you and I have already talked about it. So it's really that would have been the question. But no, you got me.
Hey, it's all good, my man. It's all freaking good. So, my goodness, man. Fun question. Loving to drop on, folks. So, you got the book Raising Superman while folks are waiting for that upcoming book on who. So, if Raising Superman was a food, what would it be and why?
If it was a food, what would it be? I don't know. Maybe it would be chicken soup because it's good for a weary soul. But I don't eat chicken. I'm a vegan, so that really wouldn't work for me. But I guess I have vegan. I could have vegans, vegan chicken soup.
There you
But
go.
really, it's it's a collection of letters. And what I found in writing after writing it and publishing it, that I was only the second father in the history of the world to write letters to their child over their child's lifespan. The first guy was Lord Chesterfield in 1737, I believe. So for Lord Chesterfield, you would have to bow or curtsy. I'm not. I'm Nate. So you can just you don't have to do anything of that special for me. But yes, only two people to mess to my knowledge who've written their children over their lifespan and then published those letters. So,
Hey, that's what I'm talking about indeed. Definitely an honorable thing to do. So that's right. So good lentil soup, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right
yeah,
indeed.
lentil. There you go. Vegetable. That could be vegetable. Exactly.
Yes, indeed. I was gonna jokingly say the Beyond Chicken Soup. I'm like, nah, let's not go that route.
It
No.
could be that too, right? That would be vegan. That works. That works. That works for me. I don't know about everybody else, but it worked for me.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Well, another fun question. Loving to drop on folks recently since you have one heck of a journey, man. So my goodness, with journeys, there's usually setbacks along the way. So what would you consider your greatest setback that actually became your greatest success?
My greatest setback. Oh man, I've had too many of them to count, but I would tell you the first setback that I talk about all the time is I had a high school guidance counselor who told me the best I could hope to do would be to work in one of the local steel mills or join the military. And he was not referencing me being an officer and a gentleman. He just didn't think very much of me and thought that my options in life were very limited. So that's a tough thing a hurdle to get over when the adult responsible for giving you guidance does not see a future for you. So I would say that might be one of the things. I think one of the other things as a child, which turns out to be a very good thing, I wanted a 10-speed bike for my 10th birthday. And my father told me that he was absolutely not buying me a 10-speed bike, that he got me a bike the previous year, or should have got it. And he introduced me to a shovel, a rake, and a lawnmower. And he told me to use those three things until I could come up with the money to buy my own bike. So at the time, clearly felt like a setback. But as I look upon it today, and I've been self-employed for nearly 30 years, it's one of the best lessons that I ever learned, to be able to take care of myself.
Ah, yeah, that's right indeed. And extend the youth indeed by staying in motion, right? That's right indeed. That shovel, that rake, and that lawnmower, y'all. That's right. Those three tools to greatness. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right.
Certainly figuratively, yes. Yeah, symbolically, they provide me with an ideology that, okay, if you want to do something, then you got to work, and you got to get the right tools. Go in the garage or the shed and find your tools, and you come out and you put in the work. You got to market, let people know what you do. You gotta under promise and over deliver. Those lessons that you learn trying to build a lawn care business as a 10-year-old are lessons that carry on with you for 40, 50 years, 60 years of your lifetime.
Ah, yes, indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Man's been dropping that gold, baby. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in 2022, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, wow. 25 and 25, I was in law school. So what would I tell myself to do? Not be a lawyer? Yeah. Like, no, no. I probably would have told myself that like, figure out who you want to be in the end, and start right now creating a plan to be who you want to be when your time is up. Yeah, that's what I stop chasing materials, stop trying to prove yourself to folks, stop doing stuff because you think it will give you some community status. Figure out who you want to be when you are no more, and work your plan to make that your reality.
Oh, yes, indeed. Make that your reality indeed, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Y'all better be getting this tennis bracelet. Jewels, man's been dropping today, y'all. I'm telling you. That's right indeed. The Nate the Great's been dropping them jewels, baby. That's right indeed. So for those who need to keep up with my good man, the mighty Nate himself, and all the stuff that you're doing, and be on the lookout for that upcoming book, the next book, what's the best way for folks to do so?
I have a website, simplest place to find me, Nathaniel, NathanielATurner.com, NathanielAturner.com.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Reach out to the mighty native self. Head over to NathanielAturner.com. Indeed. We're going to put the link to that in the show notes, indeed. And be sure to cop some copies of his books that are out there right now. And check out his TEDx talk as well. We're going to put a link to all that in the show notes, indeed. So that way, folks will be waiting in the wings for a man release that new magical book, a new addition to the collection. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Get into that who factor, indeed. That's right, indeed. So you know who we are. That's right, indeed. Depending on who you are, you know who's y'all.
There you have it. Yes.
Yes, sir, indeed. So, any parting words before we close up shop?
No, man, I just want to thank you for having me and let you know I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here with you and share with your listeners.
Thanks a bunch for gifting us with your time and your ears to this podcast. If you want to make yourself even more super special awesome, like, subscribe, and share this with somebody that you care about, and spread the word so that way we can get this show out to as many people as possible and encourage them and inspire them to one day become published authors of their own and join the business of immortality. Advance others to advance yourself.